It's good to see you. You too. We'd like to welcome you to this evening on behalf, thanks Ted. On behalf of my mother and father, we'd like to welcome you to this evening, as well as George and Marie and Heather and I. And we have a few things that we want to give out to our attendants. And our helpers. And our helpers for all the work that they're going to be doing in the near future and keeping Heather and I sane, I hope. So Chris and Len and Peter, Val, Kim, and Aaron. This is a small token of appreciation. known Chris for 6 to 7 years now, and I still can't get his name right. And as you can see on the back of the t-shirt, it is really, really wrong. And we actually aren't directly responsible with that, but since I've never been able to spell his name right, I'll take the blame for this one. Yeah, but it's phonetic, it's phonetic. Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Somehow, Eric.
Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends.
As part of Paul's message to the Ephesians, he explains how God expects us to live, and one section of that is the relationship of husbands and wives. And he says, be subject to each other out of reverence for Christ. Husbands, love your wives, as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for it. In the same way, men also are bound to love their wives as they love their own bodies. In loving his wife, a man loves himself. For no one ever hated his own body. On the contrary, he provides and cares for it, and that is how Christ treats the church, because it is his body of which we are the living part. Thus it is that, in the words of Scripture, a man shall leave his father and mother, and shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Each of you must love his wife as his very self, and the woman must see to it that she pays her husband all respect.
The third reading is taken from the first book of John. Dear friends, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is a child of God and knows God, but the unloving know nothing of God. For God is love, and his love was disclosed to us in this, that he sent his only Son into the world to bring us life. The love that I speak of is not our love for God, but the love he showed to us in sending his Son as the remedy for the defilement of our sins. If God loves us, dear friends, we in turn are bound to love one another. Though God has never been seen by man, God himself dwells in us if we love one another. His love is brought to perfection within us. Here is the proof that we dwell in him and he dwells in us. He has imparted his Spirit to us.
The wedding song is Psalm 100, a joyful song. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the land. Serve the Lord with gladness, come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord is God. He has made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his name, for the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Will you stand, please, for the wedding gospel? In St. John, Jesus said, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another, as I have loved you, you also love one another. And in St. Matthew's Gospel, Jesus says, have you not read that he who made them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one. So they're no longer two, but one. Thanks be to you, O Lord, for this your glory. love. The children might have the benefit of family life, and that society might rest on a firm foundation. The Apostle Paul compared married love to that of Christ for his church, so he gave us a new vision of what marriage ought to be, a life of self-giving love. Heather and Eric, your marriage joins you to life in a relationship so intimate it profoundly affects your whole being. It offers you the promise of a love that is true and mature. But such a love requires that you commit your lives to one another freely and without reserve for the sake of a deeper and wider life together. Seek to become one in mind and heart as well as one in body. Trust in the living Christ, and he will guide and support you on your way. Let us pray for Heather and Eric as they make their marriage vow. Almighty God, who from the beginning has made man and woman for each other, let your Holy Spirit rest upon these your people, as in your name they pledge themselves to one another in vows of love and faithfulness. Let your love be upon them as their hope is in you, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Erickson, Bruce, Dewar, Edward, will you have this woman to be your wife? Heather, Don, McLachlin, will you have this man to be your husband? Do the parents of the bride give their blessings to this marriage? Do the blessings of the groom give their blessings? Do the parents of the groom give their blessings to this marriage? God's name, amen. Eric, will you take the ring for the bride and put it on the fourth finger of her left hand? And repeat after me what say to Heather. I give you this ring,
I give you this ring,
that you may wear it
so that you may wear it
as a symbol of the vows
as a symbol of the vow.
we have made this day. In the name of the Father,
In the name of the Father,
and of the Son,
and of the Son,
and of the Holy Spirit.
and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Heather, will you take this ring and put it on the fourth finger of Eric's left hand and hold it there and repeat after me, but say to him, I give you this ring that you may wear it as a symbol of the vow we have made this day. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Will you join your right hand? The congregation has often heard that weddings are being tied or not being tied, and this actually is an old tradition which goes back into medieval practices where the officiating clergyman takes his stole or scarf of office and officially proclaims them husband and wife. Forasmuch as Erickson, Bruce, Dewar, Edward, and Heather, Don, McLachlin have made this covenant of marriage before God and this company, I declare them to be husband and wife in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. The Lord bless and sustain you that you may please him both in body and spirit, and grow together in love all the days of your life. Yes. This is where I speak to you. I don't know whether anybody remembers what I said. Perhaps if you go to other weddings, you might remember something from them. I don't really remember christening Eric when he was a youngster. But I did, so the book says. And I'm pleased today, Heather, that you and Eric are getting married. Especially in this church where Mr. and Mrs. Edwards were married too. And Amendment. Now, what do I say about marriage? Well, actually, if you notice, which nobody does, but if you notice the words, there's a fine print in the marriage service, which says that, yes, you have this relationship which is wonderful, but you have to do something about it. It requires that you commit your lives to one another freely and without reserving any part of it. In other words, it's a question of being one. The Bible a long, long time ago said that man and woman are one. When they're married, they're together. They're one corporate being. And consequently, as St. Paul, in talking about the body, said, that if there's something wrong with one part of the body, the foot or the hand, then it affects the rest. And it's the same thing with marriage. Marriage involves both of you. You both have to support the other and try to grow. Now, you will make mistakes probably. It says so right in the wedding service. That people are supposed to be patient with you when you make mistakes. But I hope not too many. And this is what you have to do. And love is joining yourselves together. And all too often in marriage, or in any kind of relationship, people say, how is this person loving me? Or how is, the other one says, well, how is that person loving me? And that's not the idea of marriage. The idea of marriage is that you shouldn't just receive love, you should give love. And you give it like God did before we loved Him. And so you try to support each other with love. It's very difficult, but it has great rewards. And it will make your lives wonderful and happy. And this will be a very happy occasion all the rest of your life. So we wish you, on behalf of the congregation, my wife and I, we wish you all the best and a long and happy life. Let us pray. O God, Lord of life and love eternal, author of all good and giver of all joy, we thank you for this gift of marriage. We bless you for the joy which Heather and Eric have found in each other, and for the covenant and promise which they have made before you. Gracious Father, whose love is everlasting, grant that Eric and Heather may live together in oneness and unity and love all the days of their life. May they have health, prosperity, and peace. Enable them to obey your commandments, to love each other and to serve you, that they may walk in the steps of Jesus Christ, your Son, so that when the joys and sorrows and all the good and evil of this passing world are ended, they may inherit your promises and share in your eternal glory. O God, our Heavenly Father, look in favor upon their home, defend it against evil from within and without, and supply their needs according to the riches of your grace. For Heather and Eric, we pray, O Lord, that directed by your Spirit, they may look each to the good of the other in word and deed, and grow in grace as they advance in years. Let us say together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now you are going to light the unity candle, which is a symbol of one life together. receive my benediction. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Through life forevermore. Amen.
You're being recorded, yes.
You're watching? Oh, great, you can stop it.
Thank you. Yeah?
Washroom right here. It's a unisex washroom.
Good.
All right, now you have to sign your witness right there. And I can fill out your address after it's sent to this book. As long as you have to.
Yeah.
Is that right?
One day only. This is it.
I mean,
Thank you. Now, best man.
I've never had that before. I've only had that maybe once before. Usually it's never as bad as that. Right? I'll be right back.
Oh, no, my grandma came back in the 40s, 30s, 40s.
Done deal. The done deal, bud. This is your special one.
Marcus, you're looking very sharp.
thank you, you too.
Extreme close-up.
See the brain,
I had to
see
do
the
that.
brain.
Yeah. Did you get the
Let's see the tick. Give us a tick.
It won't come down on the wrong side. You saw it? You noticed it?
I could see it.
I missed
Get
it.
a Shelley Long and
Yeah, and cheers.
cheers.
What?
When you smile, you're
Oh, she had us.
Yeah, I know. Like a story.
Yeah.
He didn't really excited. He was snapping my glasses at the gym. Hi.
Hi.
How's it going? Good. You're funny. She's like winking at me. No, that was her twin.
Those men, we have to look after them, don't we?
Overcome that or not.
Well, touch it up. Touch it up. Touch it up. Oh, he said that's what I said. You know, people say, let's play. Like, no way.
No.
Well,
We got on.
I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present you Heather and Eric Haynes.
adopted the second son, he was born one.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, how are you?
Well, why are we here?
Yes. I'm just
Do not rush Ernest.
okay, Chris, rather wrong. Hi, I'm sorry.
Mr. Riz.
I pulled that. I know, I just had a feeling that it's nice. Hi, Lorraine.
What's happy, Eric?
Much.
Should I do it now? You can do it now? Fine. No, I know we can. Oh, Chris. Should mine fix it up?
How would you like the man in the middle, or?
Yeah, please.
Hi.
I remember saying, yeah, the cosine, yeah.
That's good. Okay, now.
Then you said, you get the secant value for the sawtooth.
Now then, hang on to it.
Like questions like that.
He's tricky, he doesn't tell you.
Never.
Never.
You know, and then
Yeah, I just grab you anytime you're looking this way, that's all. Okay, there, that's nice.
Yeah.
I know.
Just so you know, Bill, your flash is facing
That's good thinking.
Thank you.
Very observant. I moved it. All right, now, may I have your attention for a moment? Everyone? Go home.
That was good.
Like that? Yep, all right.
I saw you guys.
Oh! Got a bunch of happy faces through the glass. Now then, just looking up here. What did before? Right. Yeah, good. Both of you did it. In sequence, I didn't have to pick out individual people then. Sure saves a lot. Ah, all right. Ah. Andy, you beat me to it. No, I didn't. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, that's a good one. Down the side. Good. Finally get around. Yeah. Okay, the girls are done.
Is it like that?
Did you design them or?
She just sewed them. She doesn't know. Just picked them up last night.
You make material as well, a little hemp farm or wherever they come from. There, now, take your mom and dad. Now, take your flowers and bring them over on your hip more. And then put down it. Down it. Cut the flowers. Okay. See that guy with the funny thing in his eye? Just look over at him, will you? Good. Okay.
Okay, there's the dad.
Ah. Never thought until after. I think I want you over here.
Okay.
There's just so much
You are getting sore, Mark?
No problem.
Or the arms from home. Thumbs up, guys. Come on.
Better get it done before the knees give out. Yeah, you're okay, but I have a comment from down here. Can you hang on for about 5 more seconds while I make sure I'm charged?
I really shouldn't have an old guy.
They're ready to do this. Hello, Eric.
Yeah.
He's my little brother.
Yeah.
The whole thing is that a grimace looks like a smile anyway, so. There we are. Whoop, are you with us? Yeah. I'm not sure that you were. Yeah. Good.
Will someone get that for me? Should we shift?
How? Oh, I don't know. Whoa. Whoa, that was good. Just because you're running on the back side. Hey, there we are. Nice car.
Send some fruits to Freeman's and maybe we can get our money back. Use this as a-
That'll work. Yeah. People that are in, not the position. There we go. Yeah. Okay, that I think, that's right. Too late. We'll never be together.
I'll see you there.
You're not supposed to tell that, Russ, where they're staying.
I just fishing her in.
Oh, did they kiss? Kiss the bride again.
Longer.
Oh, they like a long one.
Can't tell who it is.
That's it, there we are. That brought a little glow. That doesn't hurt at all. All right. Now then. Heather? No, stay there. Now, I don't want to see those fingers though. Around the waist. Yeah.
doing?
Good. I love you too.
This is great, eh?
I always remember at Val's wedding, I said to your mama, Mark had to go and get my shoes because I have high heels, I had them low heels, I had them brown. Nobody in my house, I'm sure, should I have. You're all very shoes. So, your mom and dad come in?
No giving instructions, no. She wants to take a picture all night long. She says,
Oh, I'd like my picture taken.
change the cartridge in it. He ran out of film at 2:05.
Introduce ourselves. My name is Paul Johnston, and I will be your MC, and my wife Dana Noel will be helping me, and I'm not sure whether she's the, I don't know what you really call it, the MC-stress or what. Anyways, we can work on that. Before I ask Reverend Roberts to come up and say grace, or to say grace at a seat, I'd just like to kind of run through the itinerary of what's going to happen, and then we can have our dinner. We'll say grace, have our dinner, then the staff will charge the glasses for the toasting, and we'll have some speeches, just 3 or 4 hours of speeches. And then dancing, and then there will be the cutting of the cake at about 11:30. And for those that are copiously writing down notes, this is all written on that little scroll you have here at your place there. So I'd ask Reverend Roberts to say grace.
Maybe I'll use that. What's MC squared anyway?
Some kind of a...
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't exactly know what MC squared is, but wouldn't that be a good answer? Let us pray. Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you for attending the wedding many years ago in Cana of Galilee. We know that you are present here today, and we ask that you might be with every meal in the home of Heather and Eric. And help us all to feel at home with you and here, and to so live and enjoy
your being, that we might have happiness and joy all our lives. Bless this food to our use, us to your service. In Christ's name we ask this. Amen.
Goes now if we could. Heather and Eric Edwards, congratulations from Florida, and warmest wishes for the future, Peter and Millicent.
Heather and Eric, sorry I cannot be with you on this special day. I wish you happiness, health, and great skiing. Love, Jen.
I've got one that looks like a little bit of a certificate here. Congratulations, Heather and Eric. May you have many years, many happy years together. Come visit us. There is no ice on the western slopes. The Western Connection, the Convoys.
To Heather and Eric, sorry we could not be with you today, but we are away on holidays. However, we trust your lives together will be blessed with a fair share of prosperity and an abundance of good health and happiness. Sincerely, Len and Shirley Kress.
And we've got one more here. Eric and Heather, greetings from the old world. Eric, on this momentous day, I'm sure your lovely wife Heather will never look lovelier. Cherish her. Cherish her as she will cherish you. I trust you have not attended the ceremony in your usual jeans. Ruth would never forgive you. And I hope you look as splendid to the men as does Heather to the ladies. I'm not really sure what that means. We'll just work right through that quickly. Although so far away, may I join the assembly in wishing you both a future of love and happiness. My best wishes always, Roy.
For those of you that are not familiar with the upbringing of Heather and myself, and I'd like to give you a little bit of background about sort of where we come from. I guess our families originally bought homes together in a neighborhood in the early 60s on Clarence Drive, and since then we've all grown up together and our families have remained friends. And among those families are the Fays with Julie, the James with Anne, Heather, of course, with the McLachlins, and myself, to my parents, Fern and Elizabeth Noel. And there's really, for me and for Heather for Anne and Julie, there's not a time when we didn't know Heather. We've known her through preschool, elementary school, high school, university, and on into our adult lives. And if I think about our relationship with the McLachlins, for me, the McLachlins were the people that taught me how to ski, borrowing their lace-up boots, and we all went skiing on Tuesday nights at Black Forest together in elementary school. And it's just been through building high jumps and playhouses and skating rinks. It's been sort of a long history and an enjoyable relationship we've had. After a lifetime of friendship with Heather, I'd like to share a few thoughts about her with you. Heather is a very patient person, and I have to think about, again, skiing, myself struggling on the hill, trying to figure out how you turn and snowplow and how you get that tow rope to carry you up the hill, and Heather was always so patient in helping me along with that. Heather is a good judge of character. I trust her judgment, her insight, and she's very considerate. Heather is also impeccable. Sometimes it's hard to be with someone that always looks so fantastic. And she looks spectacular today, which for me wasn't a surprise. Heather is disciplined and tenacious. In her earlier years, her dedication to ballet and the piano were a testament to that, and her incredible career success at the Cooperatives Insurance is further evidence of those characteristics. And finally, Heather is fun. We've enjoyed so many fun times together. We were just reminiscing at the table tonight about flinging Barbie dolls over the house, the makeup party where we all brought our mother's old makeup and did our faces up and had pizza at the McLachlins. More recently, a murder mystery party where we met Eric for the first time as a mountain climber. And of course the ski trips, and most recently one we shared with Esther and Claire Seeley and Dwayne and Rita and Heather and Eric and Paul and I at Mount Tremblant. We've certainly enjoyed a lifetime of friendship together, and we look forward to many more years. And it's sort of with that background that I can say on behalf of Paul and I and my family, and in fact all the people from the Clarence Street gang, how happy we are for Heather and Eric today, and I'd like to pass on our best wishes and congratulations.
I don't really have too much to add to that. I thought Diana hadn't read my speech, but she picked up on a lot of the things that I was going to talk about. I guess I'd just like to pass on my best wishes as well to Heather and Eric. And Eric's got a couple things to learn, though. He came over this morning and was burning off a little nervous energy, and he said to me naively, he said, do you think I could put our bags in your room?
Oh, no.
We're in room 140. Anyone who might want to pass on their best wishes in their luggage. Eric, you've got a tough act to follow in this, fitting into this Clarence Street gang, and for those of you who don't know what this is, and Diana touched on it in her talk, that it's a very close-knit group of neighbors in Sarnia. And Dawson was the first to break into this, and I followed after that, and Eric followed after that. So you've got a tough act to follow, Eric. Marie still says to me that, you know, I'm like the son she never had, so good luck. Just a couple of administrative things, and then we'll get on with the people that are really supposed to be saying the speeches. I'd just like to, on behalf of Heather and Eric and George and Marie and Russ and Ruth, thank the Warden String Quartet for their playing today. They're not here now, and that's a shame, but for those that you didn't know who the name of the quartet was, I thought they did a wonderful job. I guess we had a little bit of a mix-up as well, and for those people who haven't signed the guest book, I don't know where the guest book is right now, but Larry in the back there says he's got it, and he's written all his favorite songs in it, but there's probably a few lines in there for those people who haven't signed it, and I know Diana and I haven't, but I'd encourage everyone to sign it. I know at our wedding in August, there's a few names that didn't make it into our guest book, and I really wish they had, and I know it's just an oversight on their part, but for those that can do it, I'd encourage them to do that. Now, without any further delay, we'll get on with the order of speeches, and I guess what we'd like to do is, we're not going to run back up and down after everyone speaks, so we'll keep this thing moving along, and everyone has their little program in front of them. So we're going to start off with Claire Seeley, Heather's uncle, and then we'll follow with Chris Lurie, George McLachlin, Russ Edwards, and then Eric and Heather would like to come up and say a few words. So without any further ado, Claire Seeley, please.
Now, there is appropriate music. Paul and Diana, that's alias for MC Squared. Head table guests, Heather and Eric, and friends. When Heather asked me some time ago to propose a toast to the bride, of course I readily accepted, and a thought that passed through my mind at that time, here's my chance to do a little roasting as well as toasting. But as I started to put down some notes, it quickly became evident that really there wasn't any material material was non-existent for the roasting part of my comments. So Heather, you can breathe easily and relax for a few moments, at least. The McLachlin and Seeley families have been like an extended family to one another. I never was sure which was the extension of the other. We had many opportunities to travel together, we cottaged together, holidayed together, and so we've had all sorts of times and places to observe both Heather and her sister Erin. Now, I don't wish to embarrass Heather by dwelling on many of her apparent qualities, and already some of them have been mentioned, but I'd want you to know that as a young child, she was a courteous, happy, lively, and inquisitive little girl. In her teen years, an enthusiastic, responsible, active young person, and now as an adult, as we're all aware, a mature, attractive, intelligent young woman. Along with her sunny disposition and infectious smile, there are many qualities that are to be associated with Heather. Most of these, I'm sure, are inherited from either her mother's side of the family, the Laneves, from this part of the province, at least perhaps a little southwest of here, and the McLachlins from the Ottawa Valley. But there are three, I think, that really stand out for me through the years. Excuse me. Firstly, I'd have to speak about her modesty, which sometimes is a little misleading, because underneath this unassuming demeanor is a quiet confidence and a sense of assurance that she can attain most any goal she sets her mind to. Secondly, her determination, and Diana, I think, touched on that a little earlier. Whatever the challenge, Heather uses the direct approach and faces every issue head on. And this determination is reflected in her accomplishments as a student, an athlete, a musician, and a career woman. And lastly, but probably most important, is her sense of commitment, her strong value system, deep family ties, and many lasting friendships which, with schoolmates and associates in the working world, point up this important quality. Now, I've been speaking about the serious side of Heather, but of course there has to be the other side. And I don't know the other side nearly as well as some of my children. So I've kind of asked that three of the Seeley cousins, who have spent considerable time with her through the years, might come up and very quickly just make a brief comment about Heather tonight. So would Cheryl, Kim, and Rich just come up for a moment, please?
Now we're going to hear the real stuff.
Give it to her, Rich. This has been toned down to be politically correct.
Mom said. Well, Heather, I'm sorry, we just couldn't resist the opportunity. So we thought we'd just share some of our thoughts with you and we thought that we would take each letter in your name to share some of those. So H, I begin with H. Heather represents honest, humble, and one heck of a horseback rider. Remember those days, cuz, when we used to go to Riddell's riding rents and we'd go over to the States? And I always enjoyed, obviously we spent many summers together, and Heather was always so much fun. And she was always very poised and very organized. And I have to admit, I was very pleased one day when the horse just headed out into the trees, and Heather lost all her while the scream on her face and the look in her eyes. Anyhow, you are a good horseback rider. E, eggs, elephant. Oh, no, sorry. E, Heather, for elegant. You certainly are. Growing up in the valley, Heather would come to visit from the city and looked like, Diana said, she was out of vogue, and the rest of us looked like we were from the Sally Ann or the jungle, you know. So certainly, Heather, that's something that sticks out in my mind, is just the way your presence and how wonderfully elegant you were, effervescent, always glowing personality. With that engaging smile. It didn't matter what was happening around her. She always would have this little grin on her face, and you know, that's Heather's smile. Wonderful.
I've got the A portion. A is for an academic achiever and an adventurer. And I do remember hearing some stories about whitewater rafting and how adventurous she was. She decided the ride was too boring on the raft. She needed to be under the raft. So she tried to swallow the Ottawa River all in one gulp, and that was her big adventure.
T. Heather's thoughtful. She's a tad tainted. And she's a traveler. And I bet many of you know that with her career she has done a lot of traveling north, south, east, and west. But I also want to share one experience that Heather and I did together in our teen years when we were 13 and 14. We traveled out west to visit our Aunt Mary Ellen, who's here from Calgary today, and families. And Heather and I, on one day, offered to babysit while Aunt Mary Ellen went out with Uncle Peter. And they had 3 young boys, 9, 6, and 5. Well, Heather and I hadn't taken that babysitting course that's out now. Needless to say, the 5-year-old escaped out the window. Jamie was attached to Heather's leg as and Colin ended up down the stairs. We had quite an experience that time.
Oh, it's me again. H. H is for, of course, human resources. Cooperators. Could also be for one hot skier, but it's also for a helping skier, helping challenge people learn to ski, and I think that's one of her wonderful qualities.
And E again. Eric! Yeah, I know it was Eric. For Eric, of course, and for Edward, your new name, and how extraordinarily lucky you are, Eric, to have such an energetic and exciting young woman who's exactly what you're going to need for a wonderful life together. And finally, R represents resourceful, ravishing, a little reckless. Remember the motorcycles and the leather? Ruthless. Yes, she is ruthless. And finally, she's our relative. She's a relative of ours, and we're proud of it. We love you, Heather.
And now you can understand why the young people know Heather so much better than we old folks. But at this point, I'd like to pass on a few words of advice. First to Eric. It was Stephen Laycock, the famous Canadian writer and humorist, who said of marriage, "Many a man in love with a dimple made the mistake of marrying a whole girl." Now, I want to say to all of you that I don't think, Eric, that you've made any mistake tonight in marrying the whole girl. Also, I might at this time just warn you of one of the small flaws in Heather's makeup. Recently, she seems to have been collecting, I hear this now when I've arrived here, that recently she seems to have been collecting speeding tickets at an unusual rate. And I just wanted to point out to Eric that the speeding tickets certainly can be a very expensive habit if she continues this kind of procedure. To Heather, though, just one final little tip, or a little tip that I feel might be rather important in the years ahead. If you have trouble with Eric coming in late at nights, a surefire remedy that I've heard of is after he climbs into bed, just whisper quietly in his ear, "Is that you, Gerald?" Now, from what I've seen the last 2 years, and particularly in recent months, this marriage between Eric and Heather has the potential for lasting, sincere, and beautiful relationships. And so, in a moment, I would ask you to join me in a toast to Eric's radiant and beautiful bride, and that, with God's blessing, we wish these young people a long and happy life together. Would you please stand and toast to Heather and Eric.
Good evening. My name is Chris Lurie, and I have the honor of being the best man today. And I'll tell you, it has been a very fine honor. I've known Eric Edwards for quite a while, and just before I go into the toast for the bridesmaids, I'd like to bring a few points about Eric forward. I'll say a few kind words. Well, maybe kind's not the word. First of all, Eric is an innovative, responsible adult. I guess when I say innovative, I mean, here is an individual, and I hope you can all picture in your mind as I go through this. When I think of an innovative person like Eric, I think of somebody, you know how you lock your car? Okay, most people push a button. Eric locks a car by having it locked in a parking lot and having the chain fastened around the car. He can't get out of the parking lot. Do you remember that, Heather? Anyhow, he